And Jordan, if you want to let everyone in, you can.
All right, letting in now.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Welcome, 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 folks. If you are joining us just now, we are in the early few seconds of starting day two with Jason, and we're talking about how to launch a 1 hour webinar to automate your business to the point where sales could be on autopilot. And welcome into day two, folks. Let's see. I see a few familiar faces. Looks like we're live now in our social channels. Now, you might notice that our Zoom room chat is intentionally turned off, and our team is going to post, looks like Jordan just did, post a Facebook streaming link. I want you to all, everybody that's in the Zoom, I want you to click on that Facebook link and go to the streaming and tell us whether you were here yesterday for day one or if today is your first day, and if so, tell us what city, state, or region you are checking in from. We've got a lot of content to go through today. So what I want to do is get started as quick as we can. Just so you all have an idea of who Jason is. Jason is someone who's been doing digital marketing for a long time with a lot of big, large names, if you ask me. He's well connected, and one of the biggest expertise that he has is webinars and launching in different methods. And yesterday we talked about a lot of the funnels from some of the clients that he was working with. And today we're going to go into a little bit more on the traffic side of how to look at a good measuring stick. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about automations and SMSs and follow-ups and things like that. Jason, welcome back to day two. We had a fantastic day one, man. Hope you got some
Yeah,
rest.
dude, man, it was great. We had a lot of collaboration, had a lot of engagement on Facebook. The chat was good, the questions were good, and just a lot of value. So I hope I cleared up a lot of people's questions about their offer and how to structure the webinar. Like, I don't know, it was honestly really informative for people. I got a lot of good feedback. People were DMing me on Instagram and they were like, "Hey, I appreciate day one." So I was like,
Awesome.
appreciate it.
I love that. So if you are watching this, take your phones out and take a picture of the Zoom room that you're in or the Facebook stream that you're watching through. And I want you to post on Instagram or story in the platforms and tag Jason and tag High Level, and we'll make sure we repost that. And it allows you to connect with people that are in the same journey as you. It allows you to connect with people that are in the same ecosystem. If you're a part of the High Level family, you know how this works. We do these 3-day workshops and we bring in a ton of value and expertise that you all need as digital citizens to move the needle forward. Jason, just real quick, give us a quick 30-second recap of your story and give us like a 2-minute recap of what we missed yesterday if today is their first day. Can you give us a quick rundown and we'll get started with day two content?
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, really pumped for day two. Just like yesterday. My name is Jason Wojo. I've been a marketer now for 6, 7 years. I've sold over 140 something $1 million on just paid traffic. I got into this space 6, 7 years ago, dropped out of culinary school, started training Pokemon cards. We're giving like a really quick rundown.
You're
Started
a hooper
training.
too, right? You heard you had a shot.
Yeah, I used to hoop, and then I had a human growth hormone deficiency disorder. I didn't get to play in college, unfortunately. I was getting recruited, and then I didn't get to grow like everybody else. So I had to go find something else to do, which was Pokemon cards. I know that sounds so crazy, but like learning that allows you to arbitrage a lot of things online. Um, so did that, and then I wind up, buying Ty Lopez's course, got into SMMA, started pitching local businesses, did that for 4 years, finished my degree. Then I moved to Florida, and then I just grew the agency from there on out. And yeah, what you guys missed yesterday, um, is we went through, a lot of big questions about webinars. Okay, like should I run one for my niche? And what's the best time to run them? And what does the offer look like? And what should the landing page be? And what should the headline be? And how to orchestrate a good headline. We had some examples from the chat of people who are, trying to get one off the ground and they wanted to see, hey, what's the best headline for me? Like what should be my results driven promise? What should be, my unique mechanism? We went through what a unique mechanism was. And then also what we went over was, as far as like what's the best time to run it? Why is it Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern? and then, price points. And, what we're going to go through today is going to be a branch off of that. So, now that we understand what the offer is, like, hey, I want to run a webinar. Here is what I'm going to be selling. Sick, right? What's the best price points? What's a good example of slides look like? Because I have tons of clients who run webinars with us, and I'm going to show you one of the highest converting set of slides. Just so you guys know, I talked about this yesterday. You're going to be getting a whole entire Google Doc that breaks down all these SOPs that I have. So from the actual templates of the landing pages, the SMS, the emails, how all these things break down so that you don't feel like you're lost or in the dark or don't understand X, Y, and Z. I don't want you to feel that way. I try to break down webinars very, very simply. So yeah, I mean, make sure we're engaged today through the Facebook chat and you're asking the right questions, because, one thing I will tell you right now is I've done tons of these lives and there's no such thing as a dumb question. Okay. If you're looking to learn, ask whatever you want. I will be happy to answer it inside of the Facebook chat. Okay. Don't just feel hindered because, I'm just presenting stuff. So,
I love that.
yeah.
And for those of you that are brand new and you're like, Paulson, I don't even have the expertise to launch a webinar. I just want to learn the mechanics of it. You're in the right room, just so you know, because at some point you're going to have to automate parts of your business. And this might be a part that you might very well be interested in automating, because putting content out there, being live, it's not an easy thing because there's psychology behind it. You can't just throw up a random presentation and hope for the best and stick on the wall and customers come in. That it just doesn't work that way. You're essentially building a brand with a certain type of feel and a certain type of presentation and psychology behind the offer. But Jason, one of the biggest things Jason said yesterday is your offer will save all the mishaps. If your offer is good enough and is strong enough, you can get away with mistakes that could be avoided later and you can rebuild on that. But if your offer is average, no matter how good the mechanisms are, you're not going to move the needle forward predictably over time for your business. Maybe you get a couple of sales here and there, a couple of run rates, but in the long run, it's not going to solve the bigger problem, which is the sales flow. So, Jason, give us a rundown of day two. What can we expect? And let's get right into it. I'm gonna try my best to stay out of the way and just, get through as much content. That's one thing I'm focused on
Dude,
myself.
I love your
Hopefully that's
feedback. It's
okay.
great. It's
Okay.
great. You're good. So what I'm gonna go through today is I'm gonna go through a webinar, okay, where basically I'm gonna go through all the slides of a really high converting webinar and what it looks like from the beginning to the story to the explanation. I can also show one of mine as well, because I've ran webinars to sell tickets for events and it hasn't done bad. But I'm in a different space, right? So it's easier for me to go on a webinar and, like, if anybody's wondering, like, okay, I have a SaaS. A lot of people in there have a SaaS. They have an MRR based model. If you have an MRR based model, you will have a harder time selling on a webinar if your price point is over $500 a month, right? It's just tough to get people on an MRR model. So if you're running a SaaS and you're like, hey, what's the best way for me to sell? Because I know a lot of you guys are SaaS business owners, is you have to get people, or you have to just sell them into an application to a book call. And there's a thing that I did forget to mention yesterday that I want to touch on right now, is that if you're selling them into a book call, let's say you run your webinar 7 o'clock at night, and this is a massive gold nugget right now, is that if you're running it at 7 o'clock at night and you finish around 8, you do not want people to book a call for tomorrow. Okay. You're a business owner. You signed up for this life. You have to take those calls until midnight. I know that sounds so insane. People are like, why would you do that? You have to strike the iron while it's hot. So if you're selling a really expensive product, you're not in the chat saying, hey, it's X amount, click the link and buy. Like, let's say it's $3,000 a month. No one's going to buy that through a webinar. You have to say, hey, listen, we can't work with everybody, but I'm opening up my calendar for the rest of the night for people who want to see if they qualify. So I need you to click this link in the chat, fill out the app, go to the calendar, and then we can see if we're a good fit from there. So if you're selling a really expensive SaaS or you do services like I do, it's easier for me to go on a webinar and sell a $297 ticket to a live event, right? And also keep this in mind, like I was talking about a lot yesterday. I want to touch on this one important piece for some people who are new here, is you need to understand that your webinar is another bolt-on for you. Do not just create new webinars that are different offers just to make it sound sexy and exciting. Paulson, you touched on this yesterday about shiny object syndrome. Don't just push out webinars and be like, oh yeah, like he's talking about a webinar. I'm just going to run something random that has nothing to do with my actual business because I know I can make money and teach people something. You have to do it as a bolt on. Most people, when they run a business right now, especially with, like we are seeing terms of economic downturn, we are seeing some type of filtration in the market. People get excited to make money on the internet. That's not what you should be looking at. Whatever your service is, find a way to maybe have a lower ticket item you could sell on a webinar to get people in your ecosystem. And it is okay. It is okay to break even on a webinar funnel. Okay. Wish I had like you want to call it? I got to get like one of those
You
whiteboard
don't want to use
things.
the blackboard? You don't want to use the blackboard?
I
The
mean,
mighty
the only thing
blackboard
is
that we
that
have?
my freaking glare is right there. People can't see it, but the biggest thing I wanted to touch on is that if you run a webinar, for example, like, we used to run a lot of webinars for my Scale Your Ads events, which High Level is partnered on. And we had about maybe 300 people sign up for a webinar, 100 people show, right? 30% to 35% is average show rate. And we would sell about 10 to 12 tickets, right? It's not bad, but it wasn't profitable, right? I wasn't profitable on it. And the thing that really bridged the gap for us was actually taking a step back and realizing, like, wait a second, for a funnel like that, we could have just went direct to funnel and not ran a webinar. Also, what we could have done better is maybe did a better offer stack. Also, what are the people worth when they come to the event? They're going to buy more. So look at your lifetime value when you're predicating what your price points are for your offers, because it's going to make a lot of things easier for you down the road. But all right, cool.
Jason, real quick before I forget, you said it's okay to break even. That means you're okay with collecting leads around that subject or leads around that thing.
Mhm.
What's the benefit of that? And I know I sound kind of elementary here, but for the folks that are brand new, I want you to highlight the benefit of building that audience.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is the email list, right? I saw someone in the Facebook chat just ask if my affiliate link or whatever is gonna still charge you for texts and emails. Of course it is, right? You have to pay for the data inside of your business. That's regardless of if you. I'm not the magic bullet, okay? I'm good at what I do, but I can't give you free SMS. So the biggest thing is that, let's say you ran a webinar and you spent 10 grand, like I talked about yesterday, you spent 10 grand and you had 700 people show up and you broke even on the $10,000 that you spent money on to fill up that webinar with 700 people. Okay, maybe you were selling like a $200 product, whatever that looks like, and you sold 50 of them. Sick. You got 700 people to show up. You probably got 3,000 people to sign up. Those 3,000 people are now on your email list. And if you look at any metrics inside of any business, and I'll go through different variants, but like if you're a low ticket business owner, you're going to make either 80 cents per month to about $1.50 per month per subscriber. So now you took those 3,000 emails, you should make 3 grand a month from that email list moving forward. If you nurture them correctly and you actually talk to your customers and ask them the right questions and build a community, right? And every single week, what if you, and this is the number that really like should get you to run webinars ASAP, which is why you're here. If you got 3,000 people a week to sign up for your webinar, 3,000 times 52, that's 156,000 emails. Me personally, we just don't like, if we ran webinars every single week, we would have to find new things to sell. But we have clients who run webinars every single week and they have the biggest email lists. 156,000 people on your list at the end of the year, you're going to make 100 grand a month, or you could make 100 grand a month or more through that list based on subscribers and dollar per recipient. So if you ran it free the whole year and broke even, which by the way is a very good asset for someone who would maybe do acquisitions and they want to buy you. A lot of companies don't think about this, but if you have a big email list right now and you're like, hey, I have good profit margin, I have good systems, I have good fulfillment, I have a good team, and I have a good webinar where I don't have to have as many sales calls, you are a very
Attractive business.
yeah, you're a very sought out business to be bought, and your EBIT is going to be higher. People are going to want to buy you. Like if I saw a webinar where the guy was like, yeah, I get a 40% profit margin, I have 900,000 people on my list, like that guy's going to get a crazy multiple, like insane multiple. One webinar a week, 900,000 emails. He's probably making $1 million a month from the email list. Like that's a very sexy business to buy. So when you're building your business, regardless if it's a webinar or it's a lead magnet, these emails are worth something. You have to nurture them correctly, because if you don't have a good relationship with your actual audience and your email list, you're just losing money day after day. Like I can't stress that enough. And when you get better at email, you can stretch that dollar per subscriber per month even higher. So that's why breaking even, I still validate it. Like I'm okay breaking even. Also, if you had 3,000 people, you have their phone numbers. What if you just hooked up a call center to 3,000 people? Okay, let's do the math. 3,000 people times, let's say even 7% of them pick up the phone. 3,000 times 0.07, you have 210 people who answer the phone. If 210 people answer the phone, you better sell at least 10 of them something. So 10 people maybe buying your course. 10 people times 997, that's the 10 grand that you didn't even you used to break even anyway. So you got to break down the numbers. Like these KPIs are so important for us to drive over these, 3 days we're spending time together. But really think about this in a more like high level scope, no pun intended, right? Like it's a scope that's going to make you understand that people, they like sales calls. They also like webinars. They like being educated. How do people learn about your product? It's all different. Like the way that people learn about your mechanism and what you do, maybe they don't want a sales call. Maybe they feel like it's too salesy. Maybe they want you to talk about it for an hour so that they can ask questions in the chat and feel passive about it and then make an action. It's very variable in that sense, but it's kind of like Instagram Live. Like Instagram Live's cool. I go Instagram Live and I get people to buy through Instagram Live and it's cool. It works because people want to hear me talk for an hour first. I answer their questions and then they ask buying questions. The same thing on a webinar. Towards the end, people start asking buying questions inside of your chat. And you're going to get to see that feel. And when you get those buying questions, you take those buying questions and you're going to sit there and go, okay, these buying questions are getting asked a lot. I think I need to put this sooner in my presentation. That's how you optimize the presentation moving forward. When people start asking the right buying questions, you get that sooner so that the sales cycle isn't as long and it's shorter.
I
So,
love that. Let's get right into what presentations should look like. And I know there's a ton of things for day two.
mhm.
Give us a one in the chat if you already are starting to see some nuggets, like you're starting to get some takeaways that you're like, you know what, these are things that I can already implement. If you feel that way, give us a one in the chat. Gives us the we just see that you're following along. Okay, awesome. Um, so Jason, presentation. Does the presentation have to be fancy? Does it have to be branded? Does it have to be recorded? Does it have to be live? Like, give us what does that look like in the grand scheme of things? What's your preferences?
Yeah. So biggest thing is I really do recommend the webinar to be branded. I think the slides should look very nice. Not because I want you to spend days and days and days making this thing look really cool on Canva. And I do recommend Canva, by the way. I don't recommend Google Slides. Google Slides has very little capabilities. I would move it all to Canva. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I recommend you run them live. You have to see what your marketplace is asking. Like the amount of coaching calls that I do on a weekly basis, and people are always like, "Oh yeah, like I want to run something that's automated and it just makes me money." I'm like, where did that even come from? That's just not a thing. Like you have to prove your KPIs first before you turn it automated. If you get just give everybody clarity. If you're getting a five, let's say you get a 5x ROAS on a live webinar, you're going to get like a 2 to a 1.5 if it's automated. Your ROAS will drop. People will know it's not live. Okay. People they're getting smarter, like it's just the way that the marketplace moves. So when you do it live in the beginning, you're sitting there going, okay, this webinar's live. What are people objecting to when I get to my offer? You can't turn it automated yet until you actually ferment and optimize what you're pitching. So you also have to get the right feedback. Like a really important thing that I recommend people do is like, even we did this was like, we just call people afterwards that were in the chat, but didn't buy. We're like, hey, you were so engaged. Why didn't you buy? Oh, it's the price. Oh, you have funding. Like okay, we got to touch on that. We didn't add that to the presentation. We didn't answer her objection before she bought. You have to get the marketplace's feedback. A lot of people run webinars, they run offers, they run ads, and they always think that you guys are all business owners. You think that you're the customer. You are not. I don't care about my own opinion at all. Like my opinion, when someone's asking me for advice and I know the expertise, yes, because it's backed by data. But if I'm going to a blue ocean in my life or in my business and I don't know the answer, I'm going to seek out information from someone who does. And that's the marketplace. That's beating the learning curve. So I always recommend doing them live. And then you run those live for 7 to 8 weeks. Yes, 7 to 8 weeks. You're going to run it live. You're going to optimize it. You're going to build that list, keep going, going, going. And then you can sit there with your, CMO, marketing team, yourself, whatever that looks like, and say, all right, cool. We ran 8 webinars. Here's which one made the most money. Now we take that. And then the next one we run it live, but kind of recorded in a way to make it automated. So we pick up on certain verbiage, like we make it automated to where maybe we delete the calendar date from the top right of our screen. Like we don't let people see that. Or we say, hey, thanks for joining me. It's Thursday night. Instead of saying, hey, thanks for joining me. It's August 29th. We change the verbiage on the last one because we know the presentation works. We know the offer works. We know how to drop the links. We have all the tracking. And then from there, you can automate the thing. So that's the biggest difference there. And then I believe I answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
like,
that gives us an idea of like how to look at presentations. But feel free to share your screen and let's go into everything you had planned. I don't want to distract you. I'm just,
very good.
thinking about the big picture of folks that are just trying to understand all the different pieces here. I'm
Yeah.
playing
So,
devil's advocate.
oh no, of course, dude. So, okay. I want to go through these slides because I've tested so much stuff with Kevin. And I've been working with Kevin now for probably like, I think 4 to 5 months. And the first month that we did this, the first month, I'm pretty sure he made like 18K, which is not terrible. Okay. For somebody who was like literally has never done anything on the internet. Like it was actually pretty surprising. I'm not going to lie. Um, so I wanted to share this one because we have literally optimized this thing like so crazy. I have done different copy variations, different headlines, all these different things, right? And then also we had to get like on his order form and all this stuff. We had to do a bunch of compliance and results disclaimers and all this stuff because he's in the trading space. But I want to show this because this is as technical and results driven as it gets as far as unique mechanisms and copy. So the first slide, by the way, is kind of, let me just backtrack here.
And don't assume you're gonna get the same results or
Yeah.
make the same amount of money.
Let's
That's
see
probably
here.
not gonna happen. We're just basically sharing from practical experiences here.
Where is, give me 1 second. I need to find this. Need to go into this. I had two things that I wanted to show real quick.
What I love is that you're showing things from your actual business that's live and well, and it's part of your world. It's not like a theory. It's like, yeah, we're running hundreds of thousands of dollars of ads into these funnels, and
So
it's
like
actually working.
this was my webinar funnel page, and as you can see here, like this is congruent to his first slide. I made it congruent in that way because I saw that my conversion rate on my webinar was higher than Kevin's landing page. Okay, so I don't want to over confuse this, but like this was oh, this was his webinar page. We tried using this whole font and angle as the first slide, and like we tested everything, dude. Like we test fonts, we test all the copy. This on the headline did not do well when we put it into the slides. When we changed it to this, it actually had a better retention rate. Like we had people, as soon as we popped this up, we had people join the webinar and like 30 people left within like 5 minutes. And I was like, dude, it's got to be the offer angle. It's got to be the messaging. So hopefully this inspires somebody to think like, hey, I should just take. And for example, all I'm doing, by the way, is I literally just did Command Shift 4 on the Mac and I just literally screenshotted my landing page and made it the first slide.
So what you're saying is when someone brand new comes into the world, they need to see familiarity. They need to see
Yes.
what they've seen before, essentially. So you
Yes.
rebuild the same exact above the fold, meaning like back in the
Mm-hmm.
newspaper days when you fold the newspaper, above the fold is the top of the funnel, basically.
Yeah.
That needs to match the presentation.
Yeah. So live workshop at Thursday. Uncover the core insider techniques our elite traders using to achieve a 10x profits. proven effective in options trading market, learn how to find stocks that are untapped with high profit potential, learn how to set, and like these, just so you realize what these four things are, these are called infatuations. Okay. So these are what we basically call infatuations. They're bullet points in the marketing world where it's like, hey, like you're basically making the claim of what you're going to talk about without giving it away. It's curiosity bullet points. We also, like I said, it's called infatuations. Okay. We infatuate them to stay and be curious. Also, we put a piece of social proof here. Reason why we did it like this is because I had him reshoot pictures. I was like, dude, put on a suit. Like, people want to, buy from somebody who's like really like represents himself well. So I had him redo pics and then we did social proof there. Okay. And then we go into, hey, like, where are you tuning in from? We build that, like engagement in the chat. Like, where are you guys tuning in from? Drop it in the chat, put your city. The reason why we do this is because at some point we're going to take this automated and we go and we turn it into EverWebinar. EverWebinar is the software that's going to allow you to take your webinar and then automate it. And it'll be able to actually move and copy over all of the chats from the first webinar. So it can see, like, for example, you guys are all on Facebook right now. You're in here asking questions and etc. If we were on Webinar Jam, we would be able to actually automate your comments with your names as if you were there. So that's the whole premise, so that it looks live, right?
And you do that with AI plugins or a virtual assistant? Like what is the
So yeah, basically what I do, because that's such a tedious task, to be honest, for someone to watch that and do it. I literally just found like someone on Fiverr for like $200 and had them just watch it. I was like, hey, just go on here, $200, watch it and move the comments over. And that was all I did.
wow.
Yeah, because you don't want to sit there for an hour and a half and just type their names in manually. Like that's not really worth your guys' time. So do not do that yourself. Okay. And then we do a survey of the room. You want to ask a question like, hey, are you currently trading? Are you currently running a business? Do you currently have any SaaS in your business? How much are your, like, for example, if you're a SaaS business owner, you could be like, hey, like type a yes if you're at least making 10K a month in your business right now. Like, or type 10K in the chat, whatever that looks like. Okay. And then you go over the agenda. Okay. This is important here. I was going to touch on this yesterday, but I wanted to hold it as like a curiosity point for today. There's a big reason why a lot of these webinars that we've started doing convert very well to with sales after the webinar is because of the bottom here. You need to place a phone number from your high level account inside of your slides. So text the word live to this phone number for a special offer. We're selling them right off the bat. And the reason why we do this, by the way, is because I do this a lot on my calls. Like if I get referrals or there's a private client wants to work with me, I always make a funny joke. I'm like, hey, we have 30 minutes here. I'm going to give you a lot of value for 29 minutes and I'm going to pitch you for 60 seconds. Cool. And like, it's a funny thing to say and people laugh and it's giddy. The same thing with this is like, okay, we're not going to beat around the bush and wait till the end to sell you. A lot of people they don't like the old way that webinars were ran. The old way that webinars were ran were not answering the live chat much and people didn't have enough consumer situational awareness to be like, hey, I know that there's an offer coming at the end. They weren't smart enough to know. They just thought that they were watching a free training. But now the world knows what a free training is. They're like, hey, they're going to sell me something. Here we go. Like, so we just get it off the chest now because it actually makes us less needy. Like if we just tell them up front, like, hey, like we're going to sell you something. Now we can let them digest the whole time. So as we're driving value, as we're answering questions, as we're not even talking about the price of the sale, we're just intrinsically letting them know that there's going to be something at the end, which is fine. Okay. And then we go through the agenda here. And as you can see, like everything's branded, everything's congruent. Like it's very structured in a way to where like the way you look at the slides is the way you're going to then look at the product. So when, Paulson asked you before, do you believe in branded slides? I do, because the way you look at the slides is the way that, and just for anybody who was wondering, I know that there are two mistakes here. This is the old slides. Okay. I had someone go through and grammar check. These are not the live ones. It's just a couple of differences. That's it with the grammar. Okay. Also, what you do is with this, when you go through the agenda for the workshop, you want to basically let them know also an expectation of how long it's going to last. Like, hey, like we're going to be on here, I run these every single week. It's going to run us about 52 minutes, 53 minutes. So I appreciate your time tonight. You could have spent it doing anything else, but you spent it with me. And I'm going to make sure that you get the most out of these 52, 53 minutes with me, like something like that. And then you get into you're getting a small commitment of yes. The biggest thing with webinars is that you want to get a small commitment of yes throughout the webinar. If you don't get a small commitment of yes, it makes the last yes even harder. So it's like if you just give them a bunch of value, right? Like, yeah, value-driven stuff makes money, of course. But if you can't get people to make a small yes in the chat or get enthused or get excited, it's going to be hard for you to get the last yes. Now, the other psychological thing that you have to realize, and I love to use the word psychology, all my friends make fun of me for it because I say it so much, but like you have to kind of understand that, yes, you're here to drive value, but you're not here to teach the whole thing. Okay. The webinar is not for people to be able to sit there and go, oh my God, I got everything I need. I can run. I don't need to buy. So your goal is to do two things. You do have to be a little bit of a gatekeeper, but you also have to overwhelm them with value. If you overwhelm, they will buy because they're like, damn, it's so overwhelmed. Like I need more support. It's just a lot of work. It's just like, I don't know if I can do this on my own. They're just overwhelmed. So make sure that when you're reading these slides, don't sit there and say, I want to make it simple, simple, simple. If you make it too simple, now people are also going to believe it's simple, which means that they're going to then just take the recording and run home. Okay. Which is not going to allow you to get buyers. So then we get a small commitment here. We're getting them to say words like invest and yes, and things that would make sense for them to be obviously pitched at the end. Okay. Just to clarify, we have a results disclaimer on the webinar, but like just to clarify with option trading for every dollar, like you're basically selling $100 for its options. I'm not going to get too into it, but like you're giving them an extra. Like the same thing with me. When I spend $1 on ads, on average, I've gotten $4 on average in 90 plus niches and verticals. So I would make a cool graphic like this. Okay, type 10x. If you make the trade, you get them to engage in the chat again. You don't let them just sit there for the whole 50 minutes without saying anything. Also, welcome them to actual questions. Like, don't just, when they ask questions, by the way, they're asking questions because they want to learn it better. So like I was saying before, there's no such thing as like a dumb question because that question will get you to where you need to be if I give you the right answer, which I will. So I'll be able to lead you in the right path because you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I want to learn webinars. When's the best time to run it? That's not a dumb question. It's a smart question because you're sitting there and you're like, okay, like I want to run one. When the hell do I run one? All right. You're getting clarity. And there's two big things that people want on your webinar, which is clarity and reassurance. More than ever before. I feel like the online space has gotten a lot of stipulations. So people want clarity and reassurance more than anything else in their lives for sure. Especially with the relationships and their buying decisions as well. Okay, then we get into, case studies. We show people, hey, like, even small wins like this.
And how fast are you going, Jason? Like, how long are these usually? 30, 40 minutes? And what is the
Um,
pace of the slides typically?
I mean, I usually will go about, like, see, here's the thing, like mine were a lot longer because I'm in the advertising space. Like, this is pretty simple. This is like, yo, I trade. Like, here's how to trade options. So his was a lot easier where it's like, hey, like there's these indicators I use, and this is what my program looks like, etc. So it's kind of tough. His go about an hour and then 30 minutes of Q&A because the 30 minutes of Q&A is just himself.
Yeah. When you say advertising, are you thinking, okay, I have to educate my avatar to a certain level before they can get to a buying phase? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah. The education piece is really them understanding the key factors and what they will need to qualify them to. So there's parameters of what they're going to fall in. So like for example, right, they would understand here like, hey, you don't need to have $25,000 to have a day trading account. You can trade with just one trade a day. You can do that with a smaller account size. You want to give people all the right objectivity before they decide to pull the trigger or not. So like that's going to be important for them. Number two is going to be, are there people like me in my situation who can see results too? Because if you're just taught, like, for example, right, if all these case studies were all like $50,000 trades, you're going to lose people. because not everybody has 50 grand a trade. So I was like, dude, you got to find ones that are small, like 200 bucks, 500 bucks, like a 1% gain, and then a 10. And then like you find small ways to make sure that you bring them back to reality, because what I said yesterday about your offer is important. It needs to have believability. If it doesn't have believability, you're going to have skepticism, even if you're really great at what you do. Like there's case studies that I show people, and I'm like, yeah, we took this business to $1 million a month. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, huh? I'm like, well, yeah, because we're good at what we do. And this is what the 4 parts of the business are going to look like for you if you work with us. But they don't believe it because they've never felt that kind of money before and they don't understand it. So what you think as the business owner is a small win is a big win to somebody else, like
Mm,
massive.
mm.
Like we had a client the other day who we just set up their book funnel. They got their first sale and they were screaming in the chat. To some people in this room, they're like, oh, it's a $10 sale. Who cares? Dude, she was going from agency to agency and she just wouldn't get results. And she finally came to us and we helped her. Like, that's a big win for her. You can't think that those are small wins. So, all right. And then we go over more. Like, this is like a $4,000 one. You keep putting the whole text thing, recent. This is a bigger one. Okay, other student wins. You're just compiling all these. And then you go through the day trading ones, which now he's going into the whole like, hey, listen, if you can make trades every single day, here's what people have seen. You go over more results. Okay. And like what I do when I explain results, by the way, is you want to overload with the value, by the way. Like when you overwhelm with case studies, the person can't sit there and be like, yeah, he's not helping people. You have to be able to give them an easy way to, number one, not just buy into the idea, but number two is get excited about the outcome. Because if they're not excited about the outcome, then they're not going to stay until the end. Okay. And these are just some of the results we get daily. This is why being on this webinar right now is crucial to your success and add another zero to your revenue. Okay. Yes, we'll have an offer. Now we tease it again. This is where we put another offer tease where we're like, hey, we're going to have an offer at the end of this, yada, 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 to get one-on-one access, right? So you go from results and then like, this is the reassurance part. Like, hey, listen, you are in the right room. You saw all these results. You're here for the right reason. Okay. And then we actually just tell them the price so that we can, because we're now on slide 28 out of 68. We're going to let them sit there for the next 40 slides and contemplate if they're going to spend the money instead of just going to slide 67 and saying, all right, buy now, buy now. Like, it's just like you're trying to do the whole, like, it's like a bait and switch. If we at least tell them now, what can we see though? We can let people drop off. Like if they don't have the money, okay, just leave. And the people who stay are curious. So now we know who we're selling to. So now we actually have a control group of like, okay, you know the price. Or are you willing to stay now? Okay. And like I said, like the 497 to the $2,000 price point has worked very, very well. Okay.
One of the things that I noticed with high level and SaaS in general, Jason, is people want to feel like they gamed the system in a sense, right? Ooh, I can find a 30-day trial here. I can find a 30-day trial there. I can find a 30-day trial here. But if I went here, I get all these extra things. It's like this, and you want to let them feel like they game the system in a way, because as a consumer, you want to feel like you have the best deal, right? And that's something that I've seen with webinars as well, and a couple of other, big names. It's like if you accidentally put out a bigger discount or a better offer out there and let them feel like, oh, I got so many different things accidentally, they just feel like, oh, now they have to honor it. But the whole
Yeah.
time it was by design, right?
And like also too, like you can, this is really cool for people to see, but before I go back into the slides, there's a software called ManyChat. So like if you are running your webinar on Zoom, okay, or you're on Webinar Jam, but you're also going live on Facebook and you're live on Instagram, you can actually set up automations using the software to message people a certain message if they comment a certain word. So let's say like I have this thing here, it's like a ring light or whatever, and I'll put my camera on it. And I'll be on Zoom. If they're on the Instagram live and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna DM him the word private or live, he's gonna get an automated message from ManyChat to then send them the offer as well. So now you're able to multi live stream. Now ManyChat just works for Facebook and IG. It doesn't work for like YouTube Live. Okay, so just keep that because YouTube doesn't have a message box. So if you're gonna do all the different platforms, I would recommend using ManyChat so that you can put like your admin in your high level account and inside ManyChat, so they can go back and forth between tabs and they can just be selling. Okay. I'll make that very clear. I just thought of that. And I was like, I think people should know. Okay.
Love
So
it.
what are these? I always talk about four little known things and what does it look like to work with you? Like we're kind of giving both aspects. Okay. And then you introduce yourself. You talk about what you're going to go over. And then the second piece is you show results. The three is you tease an offer. The fourth is you set an expectation. And the fifth is, and this is part of the framework, is I have to introduce yourself. Okay. Who am I? Why should you listen to me, etc. Okay, so go into the whole bio here. Okay, and then I'm the founder. He's also a credit specialist, stock options, fleet owner. Like he actually does a lot of our stuff. It's really cool. It's actually been really cool knowing Kevin. Okay. And then also some pieces of social proof, like he was on a podcast. And this podcast, by the way, this is important. This is the ad. Okay. So they're asking him questions on the podcast, and I'll open ads manager and show you guys this stuff once I'm done here. But like this ad does very, very well. And podcasts tremendously are crushing the ad game right now. Like when someone is on a podcast organically asking you a question and it has to do with your offer or service and you answer it and you get both camera angles and then you like cut it and then you run it, it just crushes. It's just so good. So just
Quick
keep that in
question.
mind.
Is this the same ad you're using to drive traffic to the webinar
So
that
the
is in the
congruency.
ad?
Yeah. So the
Okay,
congruency
so
of it. Yeah. So when they see the ad of the podcast, they then go to the webinar page and opt in. They see this
mhm.
again and they're automatically like, oh, I remember that. That was the ad. So now we have trust. Now we're building trust. Okay. That's why I always recommend you using authority based content. Like I have news interviews that I use in my ads. I go to a local studio or whatever, and like the news channel wants to interview me for a segment. I take that and I run it on retargeting. So people can then see it and keep looping and looping and looping, and they just keep knowing that the social proof is there. And I also show screenshots of that on like my webinar. Hey, I was on this news thing and yada yada yada.
So
Okay.
Jason, quick question for everyone that's in here that's brand new. We're not on CNN yet or on Forbes, right? What do we do to create the same sort of trust level if you're brand new in general? Like maybe you don't have publications, maybe you don't have press or PR. Like
So
what are some techniques?
um I mean, dude, big thing is if you find local news stations, you can just go to their news station desk and just pitch them. Like literally, I'm not even kidding. Like you could just go to find the local ones. Like there's these like little known ones like CBS 16 and Fox 14. Like they're not Fox 5, but they're local county channels. If you go in a local radius right now and you just search up local news channels near me, you can drive to them right now and you go to the front desk and you could pitch them a segment and you could just drop them the phone number and they will just literally look at it and say, all right, do we want to have this person on? Do we not? A lot of people are just afraid to do it. Like, dude, it's actually not that hard. They'll take you because those smaller news channels locally, they have nothing to report on except there's traffic on I-95 this morning. Like they're bored. They have nothing else to report on. So if you go to those local news channels, you're gonna have a lot of success. Number two is I mean,
It's always better to be a big fish in a little pond versus a
yeah,
big fish in a big pond, right?
yeah.
And so a lot of people ignore the locality, like they ignore BNIs, they ignore Chamber of Commerce, they ignore local news channels, they ignore the local digest or the local Facebook group, and that's really where the blocking and tackling of the games really start. Everybody's trying to throw Hail Marys and big plays, but you need to I would recommend focusing on the local play, especially if you are brand new, and your webinar should reflect it. Hey, I am someone who grew up in Texas or Dallas, Texas, and here's who I serve. Like you can go the local route if you ask
Yeah.
me, especially in the beginning stages. So
So,
Jason, so you have the ad in here. You have a really big authority play. So are you playing this during the presentation, this video?
during the presentation, we don't play it
Okay.
because I mean, yeah, we just don't want to like bore people with the clip. Like we're just like, hey, like we literally were on this podcast, yada yada yada. And they can the biggest premise, by the way, is the proof on the bottom left, the 1.5 million subs and all the likes. That's all the people care about. Like, okay, he was on a channel with 1 million subs. Like this podcast I interviewed him. He can't be a clown. Like he's got to be legit. Okay. So that's what people are associating with that. And also like I'm good friends with these guys. Like they do that podcast is like insane, the amount of downloads that they get. So people know them. Okay. And then that's him with Rick Ross and all these guys. It's pretty cool. They did like he's like in a private mastermind with them, so it's pretty cool. And then like if anybody knows who this person is, that's Billy Jean. Billy Jean is an insane marketer. Someone that I've studied for years, probably one of the best at video ads. Like I just had to say that because dude, you just got to give respect
We
where
just
respect is due.
Yeah, we just had him on a 3-day workshop right before you. So
Yeah, dude, Billy Jean's awesome. So it's cool to be associated with Billy. I haven't really gotten connected or met him, but I would love to. I know he's in San Diego, but yeah, I mean, dude, I have like weird aspirations as a marketer. And it's to me, like I've met Gary Vee, but I would love to sit down with Gary Vee and do a podcast. And I'd love to sit down with Billy Jean, but yeah. And then like all these access and social proof of things. This is showcasing like this girl who was trading and then like, she wind up doing something and, like just a little piece of social proof here. Okay. And then you're getting another small commitment of a yes, like type a yes if you want to replicate the success you've seen our mentees having. You're getting another, like I said, a small commitment of a yes. Okay. Now we get into what is this mechanism that we've been holding to them the whole time? Like, what are these 4 things? Okay. And like we also show them like these 5 things up top to give them a tease of what they're going to actually see. Okay. Also, we put the @ on the bottom here because we want people to, like you guys, we want you guys to tag High Level on Instagram. We want you guys to post this on your stories and even tag me if you want, because it gives us more reach and it gives us more impact and it's just more exciting. Right. So it's always appreciated. So now you go into the first part, you dissect it into bullet points. This is where you go more advanced. In the beginning on that one slide where I'm not going to go all the way back to the first slide, but it had like the short form bullet points. Now we're taking the bullet point in the red here and then expanding on it. This is where you're getting into more educational format. This is where you're driving the value. This is where you're really getting the audience on the edge of like, okay, this is how it works. I'm ready. Okay. So, you go into, identify hidden opportunities, maximize ROI, proven success, risk management, et cetera. Find stocks that are untapped with high profit potential because a lot of people go for these mainstream stocks. They look at Bloomberg and Money Magazine and Inc. and all these things. And they're like, oh, like I'll just buy what they tell me to buy. Like there's literally articles out there right now where if you go on Google and you search top 10 stocks to buy in 2024, like there are articles like that. And people will go to that and they use that as like the angle of why they should buy it when like obviously that's not smart. Do at your own risk, but and then untapped questions we should ask ourselves because this is a big piece here. What am I really doing here? I'm really getting the audience through the FAQs. This is like my way of putting them through FAQs here. So you go through the first point. We'll go back one bit. You show them the idea, and then you're like, okay, what are the biggest questions you're going to have? And now he's answering the buying questions and the technicality questions. Okay. So what concerns might investors have about these hidden gems? Can you confidently fulfill the potential of these stocks? How does the stock offer stand out from others? Like literally answering all the tech to now classify him not as an authority, not as a public figure, but as the expert in the field. Why should we listen to him if he's this options trader? And then we get into setting indicators. Okay. So like, what are these indicators that you're going to use to like find winners? Obviously, I'm not the expert at this. I'm just giving you a broad overview. But like, how are you going to utilize them and et cetera to actually like know when something's breaking or going up or going down or whatever the case may be, like whatever the trading strategy is. Okay. And now he's going to go on the debunking the myths. Okay. Greeks kill prophets. Like you're going through all the myths that people have had in their head now. This is what we call, like, for example, in the ad agency space, which is a very interesting space to be in, which I'm in. The myths are, yeah, ad agencies aren't great. Okay. Two would be like too many of them charge too much, or like all these myths about ad agencies are like, oh, everyone's just like a VA and all this junk. So it's like I have to debunk those myths on the call, right? Because people are told certain things, like people are told that you shouldn't run ads unless you're already making money. Like, no, keep your 9 to 5. Like I said yesterday, keep your 9 to 5 and pour money into the side hustle. Okay. You don't need to be rich to run ads. You don't need to be rich to use high level. You need to be dedicated and consistent and actually care about your business. Okay. It's really up to you. Like it's the same thing with courses. The same thing way you look at myths, the same way you look at courses. You buy a course, like I don't sell courses, but if you go buy a course, okay, if you didn't get results, but 3 other people did, it's not the course that was the problem. You just didn't implement because you worked at your job and you got home and you were tired and you didn't want to fulfill the promises that you made to yourself. Like it's a you thing. And I think that like this is just kind of a side note, but like right now with the way the world is going, like I really need all you guys to understand like things are not pretty. Like we really need to be more accountable to our businesses, our families, our partners, our team, ourselves, our health, our wealth, our happiness, our love. Like all these things are massively important. And it starts with you. Like it starts with the small actions that you take on a daily basis. Like I have to, like I wake up every single day and I'm like, okay, I have 15 phone calls, 2 referrals. I got to do a go high level virtual workshop. I like you have to be massively dedicated. It is grind or die. Like that's it. Like this is what it takes. So the way that you go through your webinar, the way you go through your slides, the way that you go through your presentation with passion and grit, right? And if you're willing to stand by your product or service, then you can debunk anything. So it's the same way I look at this webinar. So you go through all the debunking of the myths. People are told like trading's hard, trading's this. You need to have a massive 401k that you can roll over and all this junk and the annuities and the like. I'm not even an expert at this, but like all these things that people are told about trading are just like really not productized. Okay. Up and down markets, stay profitable when a stock goes up or down because you can do calls or puts. All right. If you know what that is, you do calls or puts. He talks about that, how, hey, even when stock goes down, you can bet on it. Stock goes up, you can bet on it. So it's like, it's not wrong. It's just simple. All right. So goes through the bullet points of this. And then the exit strategy, we use this whole angle like a military sniper. We use this angle because he tells this whole story about how his dad was in the army and how he had like this, there was an intervention with a sniper and all this, like, I haven't really listened to the whole story, but like it has a lot to do with the stock. And he uses the angle because it makes sense because it has to deal with somebody's life. And if we allude the storytelling to the product, it's now has believability. Like, wow, like he named it that and he wrapped into a story. Like that's insane, right? Like there's a story that I always tell. I'll get into it at another time, but like it has a lot to do with my childhood. Like my childhood was like kind of this thing that was like how I always felt as if I wasn't going to figure it out because I wasn't tall and I didn't grow and I was like really skinny and all these things about me that I didn't like, right? And I was like, oh, I'm down and out. I'm 70 pounds. I'm 4'11". Like, who the hell's going to listen to me? All this stuff's going through my head. Like, the biggest thing that I'll tell you is that you don't have to look the best. Okay, you don't have to be the most attractive. You don't have to be the most cool looking or have the nice coolest shit. What you need to be is right. And that's the only thing that matters to people. Like think about when you were in school and you were looking to take tests. Trust me, we've all been there. I've looked over someone's shoulder before and tried to get an answer. You cannot all sit there and say you haven't tried to do that. Okay. I was in the middle of the SATs and I was like, what is that question? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it happens. I just wanted to be right. And people will do whatever it takes to be right. And you're only going to listen to people when they have the answer for you that you've been seeking. Hence why you're here. You're trying to crack webinars. I'm helping you do that. I have the answer. All right. So a lot of the small things that I do in marketing really do just relate back to how humans operate. It's the way that I look at most things. It's all human nature, right? Like, if you could get one skill under your belt right now, regardless if you run webinars, book call funnels, low ticket, you run an e-com product, whatever it looks like, if you understand human nature, you will never have to worry about money again. I swear on that one. If you understand how humans operate, why they make decisions, how they make decisions, time frames, infatuations, contemplation, persuasion, like handling objection, you will never have to worry about your business losing or making revenue ever again. Okay. And then we ask the audience for permission. This is very important to understand, because when we ask for permission, they're not going to say no. Now we're opening the door. Do I have permission to show you my offer? We don't just go into the pitch, and this has worked very, very well for us. Is like, if I'm on a call, like, do I have permission to like show you what it looks like to work with me? When you ask it that way, what you don't want to say is, all right, cool, so here's the price, where's your credit card? That's not how you sell. Okay. When you do this, you get the whole audience engaged. So do I have permission? Type ready. So we have them blowing up the chat, ready, 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 ready. And then like, people are ready to hear the offer. Okay, before I go any further, we require an investment on this webinar to join. Okay. And then we use the whole angle, which is very true, which is like, hey, to be honest, like, if you can't spend $1,500 on a webinar, like, there's nothing that I can do to help you, because you're not going to take action even if I told you to do something. Like, this is the real honest truth. Like, if you're selling to people for fulfillment and back-end reasons, if they can't spend money on a webinar, then they're not going to be able to do what you tell them to do. If you're doing one-on-one with them, maybe you're a coach in here or a consultant or a service provider, you're doing one-on-one, you're doing group coaching. If they buy, or maybe they buy 3 days later, it took them 3 days to spend $1,500. I'm going to be honest, that person is going to wind up being either buyer's remorse. They're going to want a refund. They're going to take too long to take action on things. They're going to be a headache for customer support. They're not going to be a good person to work with. The best people who buy on webinars are the ones who are like, yo, I'm in. Let's do it. It's the fastest way to get people inclined, because they know and they see a good offer when they hear one. You get to take and copy the same trading principles that got you on this very free class today. Come learn, 7-figure trader. He's got 4,500 people in this. Dude, he, like, not a lot of people know about Kevin, but he, like, legit is insane. Like, the trading is nuts. And I've actually been doing a little bit of it too. It's been pretty cool. Okay. And then he talks about the price. It's not 5,000. It's not 4,000. It's not 3,000. It's not 2,500. It's not 2,300. It's not 2,150 on this call only. And then he pitches it. It's $1,497 for lifetime access. On this call only, it's $1,497 one time. Okay. The reason why he does it this way, and this is important, at first, you show them the price without a comma. This is important. Okay. It makes the number look smaller. When you show the price without a comma first, you ease them into the sale, and then you can now add it. Okay, it's something that I learned from Russell Brunson on how he does the pitch, but like, you do it without the comma first, then you do it with the comma. And then you go through bonuses. Like, hey, I forgot to add. For the first 10 people, I'll take $1,000 off. Okay, since it was originally $1,997, now it's $997. It was already $500 off. So just to give you context, it's already $500 off. And he says it on the live. It's like, hey, it's $1,997, but on this call, it's $1,497. Okay, cool. For the first 10 people, you get it for $1,000, which is 50% off. So now it's only $997. So now people are going in the chat, and while they're getting the link, we show them all the deliverables of what they get. So now the person has product delivery clarity on what they're getting. Like, okay, I just got pitched. What do I get? All right, sick. And then the first 10 people will basically be able to get the link, and then they go in the Zoom chat and then they basically buy. And that's really how it works. Okay. And then literally that's it. And then they just click the link and then they join. And then, what will happen is, this is important to understand. How do I move this? So if we go all the way back here, okay, in the very beginning, where is it? This. Okay, we didn't put this on every single slide. We put it periodically, but those people who texted live, now his sales team, while he's pitching the 10 people, are working those people. They're on high level. They're in the conversations tab. They're talking to people. They're like, hey, are you going to buy? We just pitched. Are you on the live? Are you listening? Blah, blah, blah. Now we're taking all the text, which by the way, we get about 250 people on each one, 300 people on each one. He'll get about 45 to 50 text messages. So those are 50 people who are getting pitched during the webinar. He's selling very, very well on these. So he'll get 50 people through text. Some people don't even text. They'll buy the 997 without texting, and then he's taking those 50 people and selling them until midnight on calls, like I talked about before, on calls, and then he sells them the morning of, and then you really start to see the decline in the conversion rate. So that's really how that breaks down. So after going through this, okay, what I want to do is I want to take some questions because I just went through a ton of info here. And then I'll go to the ad side.
Yeah, what I would love for you to do is maybe apply some of this to the local agencies that are focused on the plumber, that are focused on the restaurants.
Mhm.
I like what you're presenting on the public figures that have some, they can showcase their press, you can showcase their results. But for the folks that are in the agency space or SaaS space that are focused on the local med spas and Kairos. Like if you can add some color there, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So big thing is you want to give your you want to have, and you could use that same structure, but you have to really establish like, let me just think about this for a second so I can give the most context possible is that your SaaS, you need to have his offer can't have a guarantee because it's trading. Okay. So when you're in SaaS though, and you control the fulfillment, you can push a guarantee of some sort or an expectation of a result. Just be careful with those things. Okay. If you're SaaS, there's still factors that can get in the way of a client getting results. Maybe their phone number gets disabled for a couple days or something happens with their calendar or their sales team's not that great or whatever that looks like. Be very careful of what you're pushing. Okay. Because people will always say all the time, oh, they raise their hands, I can sell, but they can't close an open door. So be very careful. Okay. So with SaaS, and if you're pitching a certain niche, you have to understand who the person is on that call. So let's say it's med spas. Okay. Women are going to be on that call. Not a lot of men own med spas. Okay. So with that in mind, how do you make the slides? Maybe you should use a girly font and girly colors. Be very particular on who your audience is. That's the first thing. Second thing is the way that you tell all the infatuations of bullet points. Make sure, and this is what I would do, and this is a really cool example, is I released and it's not even live anymore. I released an offer 4 to 5 years ago. It was called the 100 ad templates. And my offer, and this is very insightful for people who are going through webinar slides, is, and I had Kevin do this too. You are not your own customer, and you need to make things very simple for people to understand and read. I was getting about a 3% conversion rate on this funnel on a front end low ticket. And I was like, dude, we got to get a better conversion rate. So what did I do? I had a landlord at the time who lived with me. His name was Steven Lotta, and still one of my good friends. We still talk. And he knew nothing about ads or marketing. And I gave him this 27-page Google Doc. And I said, dude, I'll give you $100. Just read this. And I want you to highlight everything that makes zero sense to you. So I had him sit there. He had no idea what marketing was. He had no idea what ads were. And I had him sit there and I was like, dude, just read this and tell me if you have no freaking clue what I'm talking about. Any of these points, highlight it and put a comment. Dude, that page went from a 3% to a 7% conversion rate after I made Steven's changes. You need to give your landing pages and copy to people who have no freaking clue what you're offering. Okay. So now if you're running against med spas, send the webinar slides to a woman who is not a business owner. Okay. Or maybe you're doing that free case study angle I talked about yesterday. Take your webinar slides and take it to your current client. Say, hey, can you read this and tell me where you think that maybe I'm full of it or it doesn't make sense or I'm not answering objections? Have an actual marketing data, or what we call is piece of data, read it. Don't just sit there and go, oh yeah, like copy and paste. No, go to the market for the answers. And that's one of the biggest skill sets that I've had for a very long time is like, dude, I just break things down in a very simple manner. Not to seem like it's simple, but like the decisions that you do, your webinar and your offers. So if you're doing it with med spa, you got to understand what's their biggest problem. You have to talk about that pain point periodically during the webinar. What is their big? Is it getting more out of the current clients? Is it getting their ads to convert? Is it reputation management? Is it I have a competitor in my area who's stealing all my customers? Is it these companies are running big discounts and I can't? Like, what are all these objections? And you answer them periodically during the webinar. Also, your mechanism needs to be really sexy. Like, if it was called like 30 new patients in 30 days or 30 new patients in 30 days, med spa, something, or something like that, right? You got to make it something that has a direct result and correlated time frame. When you're pushing a SaaS, I really do recommend periodically that like you have to give away for them the lifetime, like not lifetime, but yearly upgrade. Like for some people who are reselling GHL and they're doing a $497, a $297 a month, you have to make this offer a no-brainer because they're not just attached to the result, they're also attached to access. The reason why people love access is because entrepreneurship is lonely as hell. And a lot of you guys can agree with that. Not everyone just wants a SaaS and a SaaS only. If you stack access and support and a community like piece, they're gonna want to communicate more with you. You have to understand that. But like, I can't tell you enough the amount of people who buy my one-on-one versus DFY. It is night and day. They don't really want DFY that much anymore. I'm like, okay, like cool. They want to just be heard because they got into entrepreneurship. Because to be honest, if you're in entrepreneurship, you're already crazy. And I love that you're crazy, right? And it's something we can
We're
all
a
agree
different
on.
breed. We're all a different breed.
We are a different breed. Exactly. And it's like you get into this game and you know, like I'm not speaking for everybody, but when I went down this path, it's not a pleasant path. It's really not. It's a path of no one, everyone thinks you're nuts. No one wants to hang out with you because you just become an introvert. Like I was an introvert years ago. I didn't know how to freaking, dude. I would be sitting at a dinner table eating with somebody and like my hand would be shaking because I hated social interaction. I couldn't stand it. I was like, dude, where's Facebook ads? Like, where's my ads manager? I don't want to be here right now. Like, I want to be home. And that's okay. Like, it's just part of like our makeup. So, yeah, I mean, dude, people just want support. Also, like when you're running anything SaaS oriented, you have to make sure that the results are attainable and believable. So if you're getting 10 new patients or 30 new patients or adding 10K a month, or if you're running anything local, local businesses don't actually make that much money. So your offer needs to be based on how do I give them a really big win? To them, a big win might be 5 new clients a month. Like you guys got to understand, like, and this is a good story is when I was first growing up, I had a lot of experience with local business. And you're going to be able to, get a lot of feedback from that because when I was pitching local businesses, I would be in high school and the guy who was popular, his dad owned the barbershop. And everyone thought that this kid was rich. It's like, oh, the barbershop, he's making $30,000 a month. Like he's so loaded. Come to realize now that is not a lot of money. Okay. Come to realize now that is not a lot at all. Okay. Looking at a local business, they make 30, they probably keep 6 of it. Like there's people out there with 9 to 5s that make more than that. But he was put on the pedestal because of revenue, but not about how much he actually kept. So you have to be able to go into a local business and realize like their rent is $4,000 a month. Their property insurance for their brick and mortar is probably $1,000 a month. Their 2 people on payroll are getting paid $5,000 a month each. And little do they, that they have a mortgage and 2 cars because they have a wife and 2 kids playing football and doing volleyball. And by the end of the month, they have $5,000 left if they're lucky. Okay. Also, when local businesses make more money, they start to spend more on personal things because they know that they're in the community. Local businesses, like little do people realize, but they are like, oh, gee, this is going to come off weird, but like they are like the ego of the local city. Okay. Local business owners,
The
because they
pride of
know
the
that,
city. Yeah, it's the
dude,
pride of the city.
Dude, it's the pride. Like they'll go around all day in town and they just like to talk about themselves and people know that they're that business owner. But what they don't realize is that when they run into people like myself and some of you guys, dude, they're not doing enough, right? They're just not. So it's like they like to talk about themselves. So if you're marketing to local business owners, you got to let them talk about themselves, their families. You got to let them talk about how they're the guy in town with the Ford F-150. They think they're cool, right? Like that's what they're really known for. They're known for leading the football training camp and being the ref at the football games. Like that's what they care about. So if you're pitching anything, you have to speak an offer that actually talks about themselves more, right?
For
And then
example, like something like, let's say I'm selling reputation management, right? And I'm only asking for that example because we have a 5-day challenge, and I know a ton of people in here are part of that challenge and things like that. But if I'm selling reputation management, there's a lot of different pain points I can attack. Jason, what are some things that you recommend on like a foot in the door offer like that, especially in local?
So for reputation management, you really have to sell the fact that you are going to be able to outrank all your competitors if you get more reviews. I think people care about that ego boost of having the most reviews, having the highest star rating. Like also back it up by statistics. Hey, people of a 4.9 versus a 4.8, they're going to win 68% of the time as far as Google rankings. Or you got to bring up stats. Okay. Second thing is that when you're talking about reputation management, you got to also talk about how you turn the reviews into reoccurring business. Don't just say, oh, more reviews, you feel good about yourself, you rank higher. Okay, you get organic traffic, and then we have this flow that upsells them into more money. And then we have this flow that gets them to give you referrals. And then we have this flow that sells the referrals for you. And then we have this flow that wins back the customers who were referrals and gets those referrals to give referrals. And like that's what's going to be more exciting for them is that it's automated. Okay. Um, Also, reputation side is your conversion rates are going to go up. You got to talk about your conversion rates. Maybe you're getting a 1% conversion rate on your landing page right now. If we put all your Google reviews on a landing page, we see an average of 2.5. We see an average of 2. We could double your business with the same amount of traffic. You got to start bringing up those stats too, because conversion rates will go up if you put reviews on the page. Hell yeah, they will. So that's a big piece to go over. And then I'm trying to think so I get everything. I mean, the other thing reputation management too is like you get to build a better reputation with your email list. Like the email list is going to intrinsically perform better too when you have people leaving reviews.
Love it. So let's do this, Jason. Let's go through Q&A if
Okay.
unless there's more things you want to share for day two content we had planned, which is really the presentation was the big thing, the converting factor.
Mhm.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about traffic from what I remember. Is this a good time to do Q&A?
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Um, there's a ton of people that are commenting. If you don't mind, just like yesterday, type in the letter Q and then post your question, or type in the word question and then post the question. So that way we can differentiate that versus just any comments that are coming in. So let's see. We'll spend the next 15-20 minutes just doing Q&A here on day two. Let's see. A lot of people are loving our conversation and the back and forth. Um, Hopefully adds a lot of colors and context to people here. Okay, cool. My desktop is not loading. Let me go to my phone to pull up these questions. Are you able to see the questions, Jason?
Yeah. So let me see here. Well, no one's actually put a Q in yet.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I see one. I see a few coming in. Okay, Martin. Martin says, question, if you're not an expert, how do you run a webinar on the topic? And I think this is something that we had this question yesterday.
Wait. Oh, how do you run a webinar? Okay. Yeah, we had the same. I think you asked the same question yesterday. Okay, Martin. What I'll say again is if you're not an expert, I would not run a webinar. I'm trying to like obviously, man, I love the aspiration. I love the engagement. I just want to be really transparent because I'm trying to change the way people look at ads and marketing and overall the ecosystem. Like, I just don't think that that's a good idea. I think that you should go invest in events and training and coaching and become an expert at something. Um, yeah, I mean, I just do not condone that. I'm sorry. Hope I didn't just crush your dream, but and also just for legal reasons, I can't tell you to actually do that. That's just not part of the yeah. Okay. Um, Carolyn, the slides look very busy to me and not readable. Do they work better than more graphic based slides with just major headlines? So here's the biggest piece is that in marketing, you have to realize that you're not your own customer. So the reason why you might object to those slides is because you're not that customer, right? You're like, oh, those slides are not. But for traders, what are traders? They're technical. They like reading the chart. They like seeing how the market moves. They're going to resonate with those things better because they're the right avatar. Okay, so that's why. Um, but
Well,
I
it's the
love the
opposite.
commentary.
It's the opposite for like a med spa. They like the pretty design and like
Yes.
the graphics. And if you use these slides, they probably won't convert. And I know that because we built a med spa brand in the past called Patient Rush, and we used to do webinars, and the ones that were really cleanly branded performed a whole lot better.
Mhm. Okay. Sarah, how long should a webinar be? An hour to an hour and a half. You're going to have a good 20, 30 minutes of Q&A. So an hour for the presentation and then 30, 20 minutes ish for the Q&As and selling. How do you do
Okay.
webinars with a website on as well? The webinar doesn't matter. The webinar has nothing to do with the website. You can just run a separate landing page on your high level account and you can just run the webinars through that. So your website is just your organic billboard of like, hey, here's what we do, here's our team, here's the about us, here's our social media accounts. The webinar is just a landing page. You don't want to run the webinar on a on a website. It's going to have a lower conversion rate. When choosing a GHL affiliate to sign up under, how would you find someone that is in your niche? I don't understand. Paulson, is that a
I
question?
think, yeah, I think I mean, there's a ton of different resources you can look at, but I would say post in the Facebook group about your specific industry. And if you are looking for a certain thing, you may or may not find it. You can always hire people to help you build things out as well in our certifications program, and that probably is a good option too. I think you missed one here. Manny says, any advice for someone who doesn't like to get on camera?
Oh, okay. Um, I mean, Manny, that's definitely tough. I think that you're gonna have to run a really sexy offer that doesn't require them to build authority with you. You're gonna have to sell like a really good mechanism, and you're gonna need a really good copywriter. So, like, what do I mean by that? Well, if you don't want to be on camera, there's always, and this is one of my favorite life quotes, is when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So if you say no to being on camera, you're now saying yes to just spending more money on marketing because that's what you're gonna have to do. Like if you don't want to be on camera, you're gonna have to spend more to get a customer. You're gonna have to spend more to get a real good copywriter. Like I mean a real good copywriter. Like let's say for example, right? Webinars are actually very expensive to build out if you're not using your own time. If I were like, for example, right, with like Kevin, if I'm doing something like that, it's not gonna be cheap because I gotta go through all the slides, write all the copy, do all the SMS, all the emails. You're gonna pay a copywriter a ton of money. That's I mean, I've been in the space for a while. If you want to be on camera and someone has to write your slides to sell for you without your face, that's tens of thousands for someone to write that for you easily. So, a copywriter that I've always learned from was Stefan Georgi. That was someone who I looked up to for a while for copywriting, and also Jason Capital, two great copywriters. And like, yeah, I mean, copywriting is not a cheap service. Roger, for those of us starting out, do you have recommend or have thoughts on tiered offers versus a single higher paying offer? So, biggest thing here is if you're on a sales call, I would do 3 tiers. But if you're on a webinar, just pitch one thing because the one thing needs to be the one thing. You don't want to overwhelm, like you do want to overwhelm with value, but don't want to overwhelm with buying. So that's a whole different ball game. So what I would do is I would just have one thing that you know that if they buy, they're going to be willing to buy other stuff within your funnel.
Yeah, and then what do you mean by three on the call? You can
Like
present
if,
three and let them
yeah.
choose, or do you use the prices to indicate to one package?
So like for us, we have 3 tiers. startup growth accelerators. So we would put them into a certain package based on their needs, though. We show them the three, but we're like, hey, listen, based on where you're at, here's where you should go. Right? That's in any business. Like it should be three because you need to be able to give people a ladder to climb up. Like, hey, you start here. Okay, if you get to this amount in revenue and we see this amount in ad spend, then we're gonna have to go to grow. And if we see this, then we got to do email. We got to go to accelerator. Like you have to learn, like you have to basically lean them in the right direction so that they're actually moving in the funnel.
So you have to be like a physician providing the prescription and helping
Yes.
them understand. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Any more questions coming in? We'll spend a few more minutes here, 12, 22. We'll stay on for another 8 minutes. If any of you have more questions, especially on the local side, and I know that's a big deal for a lot of high levelers and SaaS players in general. Let's see here. Um, Eric is asking, I'm undecided if I should launch my marketing services in Spanish or English. Do you have any suggestions or advice?
That's actually a great question. I love that question because I'll tell you right now, if you could speak Spanish and you're Spanish and you can market to Spanish people, you are gonna have a higher conversion rate. And I've seen this in multiple markets. So I would definitely run Spanish first because you're gonna have way more congruency with people and you're gonna have just better congruency with them. Yeah, like the Spanish community is pretty tight knit as far as marketing goes, and I see very high conversion rates in that niche. So I would definitely start with Spanish. You're going to see a higher ROAS for sure. Okay, Dr.
Got it.
Mary. I'm a holistic physician, specialize in mental, emotional, physical health. How do I attract more people towards my topic on health? You're going to have to post a lot of content, number one. Number two is you're going to have to like for you to see that's the thing is like the offer and the way that you explain that you need to be more specific with what you do because I'm going to be honest, like I have no idea what that even means. Mental, emotional, and physical health. That just seems very like it just seems very vague. I would more specify like I help old aged women achieve X result. Like just kind of go into like I help business owners with their childhood traumas and something else. Like do something like that. Because when you just say those three things, it's such an open wide net, right? I would
So it's
definitely
better to go
sensitize the
narrow.
offer.
It's better to go narrow and focus on that for webinars. And then on
Yeah.
a sales call, you can talk about maybe multiple things you do
Like for
or
example, Kevin's is just option trading. It's not just trading. So I would really specify one thing that you do very, very well and that you know the certain pain point will pay high ticket money for. Like I had traumas when I was getting out of college. Like I've paid a lot of money to get rid of childhood traumas. So that would be something where like, yeah, I mean, I think that that's a higher ticket space for sure. Okay, someone had a question about the replays. Okay, Jordan answered that. Cool. You talked about being a big fish in a small pond, but don't they say if you are smartest in the room, then you are in the wrong room? Shouldn't we be heading for the sea if we are the biggest in the pond?
yeah, we
Uh,
were talking about the size of a market that you're going after,
yeah, we were talking about the
not the
market.
real.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about the market. Hopefully I didn't confuse you there. But dude, that's a great analogy though. Like you should be heading for the sea. But here's the thing though. People always want to head for the sea, but heading for the sea is going to come at a massive cost. Like if you're a SaaS business owner and you want to compete with big SaaS companies, that's going to come with a very big price tag. So going into the sea, like, dude, you could sit in the pond and you could make 1 to 10 million a year. You could sit in the pond. But if you want to go to the sea and you want to make 25, 50, 100 million a year, you're going to have to, that's going to come with a big price tag for sure.
Yeah,
And what do
you
I
have
mean by
to.
that? Ops, payroll, marketing. You're going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a week on marketing, not a month, a week. Comes with a bigger price tag.
Which
Uh,
is exactly why we tell SaaSpreneurs in high level to just focus on local. Because if you go above that, up market, you're competing with everyone that has a lot of funding and everyone that has strategy behind the funding, everyone that has markets that are already captured. You're in a whole different lane versus going down the local market when it comes to SaaS. We talk about that all the time, left and right. So Jason, let's do this. Let's close out for today. Give us an insight to what's going to be covered tomorrow? I know we're going to talk a lot about conversions and traffic, and give us what we can expect for tomorrow.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go through the ads manager for the exact webinar that I just showed you, show you the metrics, show you what we're doing for targeting, show you what we're doing for retargeting, showing you the copy, showing you the creative, showing you how to set up the first ad. I'm going to duplicate one of the campaigns. I'm going to launch one live with everybody so you can see what I do, how I look at certain settings in Facebook and for Instagram and budgeting techniques and all that, and then get that ad actually live. And then the second thing I'm going to show you is the emails and the SMS and how I space those out and what those automations will look like inside of your high level account.
I love it. And can you talk about the bonuses you're providing as part of the 3-day workshop here?
Yeah.
Really, I forget to be salesy sometimes, Jason.
Yeah. So first bonus is that because you're on here, and I know webinars can be overwhelming sometimes, I'm giving you all my slide templates for you to build your own webinar. I'm giving you the landing pages. I'm giving you recordings of webinars that have made money so you can see how to run your own. I'm going to give you all the examples of webinar ads so you know what to record. And then on top of that, I'm also giving everybody a 30-day free trial to high level. Okay. And usually when you go on the don't like regular high level domain, it's 14 days. You're going to get 30 days for free. Okay. Just because you're here. I'm telling you right now, take that opportunity because if you're new to the high level space, okay, change the game for my business. You should all be on high level. Okay. All your landing pages, all your SMS, all your emails, all these things in one place. You don't have to get all distracted on other platforms. You condense it into one. You have your reputation management. You have your funnels. You, like I said, your emails and SMS. You have your sales team. You have your social media manager. You can plan social posts from high level, like literally everything that you need to run your business as a solopreneur or someone with a small team. You can crush it with high level, hands down.
I love it. We'll drop the link that is specific to what Jason talked about in the comments. And those of you that already have existing high-level account, you don't need to cancel and start a brand new one. We will make sure you get the snapshots and collaterals we're talking about tomorrow, end of day tomorrow. For those of you that already have accounts, no need to make any changes. But Jordan and our team will drop the link for those of you that are on the fence and you're not part of the high-level family. But Jason, exciting day two. For those of you that want replays, there's a replay link as well. Grab that and you'll be able to watch it. But tomorrow, same time, 12 o'clock Eastern. That's New York time for you that are international.
Mhm.
We see you then.
All right.
Bye for now.